Hey guys, how's it going? I do have to say real fast before I start, if I do sound a little congested, I am sorry. It's that time of year and I have a cold right now, so that is a little bit unfortunate. But hopefully it doesn't impact the video. So tomorrow is when Warsong Gulch and AV come out. Now we did an earlier video on Altric Valley and the rewards that you can get from AV, and also why I think AV is a really good battleground to kind of start with if you're going to be doing a lot of PvP in the next week or two. But now I want to talk about Warsong Gulch because although AV has a lot of really good rewards, Warsong Gulch for a lot of people is very, very enjoyable and is more of a exciting PvP battleground. Not only is it kind of smaller, so you as a player have a bigger impact, but also it's a great battleground to go in with a pre-made and really have some fun. Now, one thing that a lot of people are asking for me to cover is kind of the gameplay aspects of Warsong Gulch, how they differ from what people are used to in modern World of Warcraft, and then also, what roles does your class play within Warsong Gulch. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So biggest things to cover quickly is there are battleground weekends. So this is very important if you're honor grinding. Obviously, for whatever battleground weekend it is, you're going to be wanting to focus on those battlegrounds because you're going to be getting more honor. So if it's AV weekend, make sure you're doing Altric Valley because you'll be getting more honor and more people will be playing that battleground, so the queues will be quick. And then vice versa, if it's Warsong Gulch weekend, make sure you're playing Warsong Gulch because, again, more honor and the queues will be quick. But other than that, Warsong Gulch is kind of a tricky battleground for honor farming. You need to have a very competent pre-made team, and you kind of need to be very coordinated on what you're going to do. Since there is no time limit in Warsong Gulch, if another team decides to turtle pretty hard with a flag and defend their flag quite well, then games can stretch on for a very long time, and this can net you in some pretty bad honor per hour, which obviously if you're farming honor, this is not something you want. So a lot of people, like I have said in the last video about AV, will be sticking with Altric Valley because there's just better honor per hour, especially early on, because people are going to be wanting to get through games quickly. But AV, just like Warsong Gulch, can turn into a turtle and the games can last a long time too. So it's just kind of luck of the draw with what game you're put into and who you're against. But now let's get into like optimal compositions for Warsong Gulch. The good news with Warsong Gulch is almost all of the classes are viable and used within Warsong Gulch. So if you are playing one of those classes out there, you definitely have a spot within Warsong Gulch. However, I will say that obviously if your class has a larger population within the game, obviously things like warriors, mages, and rogues, you're going to have a harder time finding a group because those classes all have really good rank rewards, so people will be ranking those classes, and also there's just a lot of you out there in the game, so you're going to have a harder time finding a pre-made. Whereas if you're like a druid or a really good discipline priest, you're going to have an easier time finding a group because those classes don't rank quite as often, and also you're less likely to see those classes in a PvP environment. So healers just in general, if you're a healer and you're looking for a pre-made, it's going to be a little bit easier to get a slot. So that's good news for you guys and kind of bad news for the DPS class. Okay, now we're going to talk about the composition. Now, obviously, this is kind of what I prefer, and you can work around composition and nothing is set in stone. But I personally think 2 to 3 warriors, MS warriors. The healing debuff is huge. So personally, I'd say around 2 warriors is really strong. 2 priests, dispels are huge. And then I'd take a paladin or a shaman, depending on what side you're on, and these priests and the paladin and shaman are all healers, okay? And then I'd take a druid flag runner, 1 mage, 1 rogue, and then a hunter and a warlock. So you're pretty much getting a little bit of everything. Now, I will say that the hunter and warlock are a little bit more dependent on what you have available. If you need to take 2 mages or you need to take 2 warlocks, and forego a hunter or a warlock. That's a little bit more open-ended. I do think the warriors are pretty much a staple. You need to have 2 to 3 warriors for the MS. That's very, very important. I think you need 3 healers outside of your flag runner druid. Druids really in Warsong Gulch aren't considered a healer. They're just kind of like a tool. If you don't have the ability to have a flag running druid, which can happen from time to time, then I would suggest taking another frost mage. Frost mages are also very good at flag running, just not quite as good as druids, obviously. So that's kind of how that goes. If you are a priest on the alliance side, you get to play a little bit more offensively. Now, if you're a priest on the horde side, you get to play a little bit more defensively, just in the fact that there's a paladin versus a shaman. That's just kind of what I've seen in the past in terms of offensive dispels and stuff like that. Now, if you're a mage, your job is to stick with the druid for the most part. If you're a rogue, a lot of times you are playing defense and you're sticking on the flag carrier as much as you possibly can throughout mid. Hunters, your job is to send your pet out on the druid as soon as possible when the match starts. A lot of druids who kind of know how to play are going to be starting off in stealth pretty much right away. The pet running to the druid can spell the end of a successful flag run across midfield, and being able to pick up the flag in general. So that's very important. The rest of the team's job, if you're not on defense or going for the flag, is for the most part to harass the other team, kind of dominate midfield, and be able to get your flag successfully across the map. Now, further on than that, after both teams have picked up the flag, that's a little bit more up to your personal preference that your team is running and like your composition. But those are kind of the general rule of thumb that I would suggest for Warsong Gulch. So now, a lot of you guys watch this channel because you are interested in druids, so I do want to cover druids specifically in this segment. So one of the biggest things that you need to do as a druid early on in the game is check the opposite team. So you need to make sure what kind of composition the other team is running, especially if you're running against a premade. So things to look out for very quickly is, do they have a rogue and do they have a hunter? So obviously if they have a hunter, that is going to impact how you run across midfield to pick up the flag. Hunters, obviously, with the massive range on Hunter's Mark and also the fact that they can send their pet on you, these both are very important things to look out for. And if that is the case, that they have a hunter, you're going to need to be going into stealth and running across midfield stealth. The next thing you have to look out for is whether or not the enemy team has a rogue or not. If the enemy team has a rogue, you need to take your mage with you to the enemy flag carrier's room. Now, this is very important because you are not going to be able to make your way out of the flag room with a competent rogue defending. You will be able to survive possibly, however, you're going to expend a lot of cooldowns, and the likelihood is that rogue is going to be communicating with their team exactly where you are, and it's just much easier to get out of the flag room with a mage alongside you. So this is very important. This is one thing that's really going to help out a Warsong Gulch team, is if their druid and frost mage work together to peel for each other and work around carrying the flag as a team. Another thing you're going to want to make sure you have as a druid is a lot of free action potions. Now, one important thing is you cannot pick up the flag if you take a free action potion while you're carrying the flag, it will drop. However, if you have a free action potion activated and you pick up the flag while under the effects of the free action potion, then you will be able to hold the flag. So that is one thing that you will need to know. So if you use a free action potion while carrying the flag, it will drop the flag for you. Just an important thing to understand. Now, with all that being said, guys, that's kind of the key things as a druid flag carrier. I personally am not the best druid flag carrier. I will say that as druid goes, You know, Druid is a class that is kind of, you know, has a lot of different important roles throughout Classic WoW, whether it comes to, you know, raid healing or world PvP, or, you know, base defending in battlegrounds. I will say that my Warsong Gulch flag running is nothing too spectacular. You know, I definitely prefer Arathi Basin and Alterac Valley over Warsong Gulch. I just don't really enjoy flag running. So if flag running is something that is super important to you and something you really enjoy watching on Twitch, I would suggest checking out Stormex. I love watching him, and he's just super fun to watch flag running. Another person also is Spo. Spo TV is really good at flag running as well, and I believe Reverie will probably flag run as well, and he has a great Twitch channel. So I'll link those three down below. If I missed anyone that you really enjoy watching on Twitch, let me know, and I'll definitely make sure to shout them out, because obviously we all love watching Druid content, and anytime I can spread that, it's great. So that's kind of the end of this video, guys. I hope this helped with Warsong Gulch. I know it was kind of like an overview, but a lot of players who are going to be fresh to Warsong Gulch, you know, coming up when it's launched tomorrow, that's kind of what they want. They want a quick overview of Warsong Gulch and what to look out for. So hopefully that helps. In the future, we'll have you know, some more in-depth guides when I can get some good recent footage from Warsong Gulch. And with that being said, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.